Hello, everyone. My name is Naomi. I was just waiting to see if I should start, but I think it's a good time to start. My name is Naomi, and I'm here once again today to be sharing about, to do the reading and give a little bit of commentary here and there of the book Jivan Vidya, An Introduction by A. Nagaraji, and translated by Rakesh Gupta. So I've been with you for the past 3 days, and we've been reading this section on the constitution of Jivan. So we're going to continue today. Today will be my final day, and then from tomorrow we will, then Kevin brother from in Germany will continue the next section of the book. So once again, I'm really glad to be here with all of you and to have this opportunity. And I'm just pulling up what I need. So again, thus far we've been talking about what is Jivan, and we've been going through all the activities of Jivan. And so we're going to continue today. There's quite a bit more in the section of Constitution of Jivan. So we'll be doing quite a bit of reading this time with a little bit of commentary here and there. So I'd like to begin. Today we're beginning on page 92 for those of you who are reading along. And we'll just start right away with the reading and enjoy what A. Nagaraji has to say. There's lots that we can understand from this. So let's begin. It starts from the methods of idealism and materialism. Okay. The methods of idealism and materialism left the study of human being behind somewhere. Idealism, spiritualism, gave highest priority to gods, goddesses, and the God. Thereby, it left the human being behind. It overlooked the study of human being in its pursuit of understanding gods, goddesses, and the God. Materialism too left the human being out of its frame, and it brought machine to the force in its experimental methods, and therefore thereby made machine itself the basis of evidence. Idealism, on the other hand, made the scripture or the holy book as the basis of evidence. This resulted in undervaluation of human being, and being trapped in this delusion, the human being only furthered this delusion while becoming frustrated, oppressed, and defeated. Now, how would the deliverance of the human being come about? All seats of power have kept giving assurances of deliverance to the human being, but there is no evidence of deliverance happening. How long can it go on like this? As the alternative, the right understanding is the source of the human being's deliverance. An educational institution is the highest seat of authority. The educational institution should impart study of consciousness along with study of science. How will you study coexistence without first becoming clear about consciousness? These two aspects, consciousness and coexistence, have been untouched in educational institutions, educational philosophies, and educational pedagogies. Second, psychology needs to incorporate the sanskar aspect. Third, philosophy should be taught with authenticity of real-life evidences. Thus far, we thought learned is someone who could read and who could repeat what he had read. However, one doesn't become learned just by memorizing. Learned is the one who lives by right understanding. Learning is of existence. One cannot become learned without understanding existence, consciousness, and human conduct. This comes into one's understanding, makes one's way of thinking, then planning, then action planning, and then the results become evident. What is this source of thinking if we haven't understood these? Without understanding, one way of thinking aims luxury and possession, while the other aims renunciation, non-possession, detachment, and devotion. Millions laid their lives for these ideologies and demonstrated their courage, their patience, and dedication. Still, an outline of society could not emerge from any of the two ideologies. Humankind has always been making tireless efforts, but without aim or direction. I had set about only for finding answers of my questions. I wasn't seeking any heaven, money, or some treasure. I only had one conviction, that if I have a question, then I will definitely find its answer. Let me tell you the meaning of the words yog and sanyog. Yog means coming together. For example, if we are going somewhere and we find someone or something, say a stone or another person, that's yog. Sanyog means coming together for the purpose of completeness. Completeness for human being is in their orderly living. The highest form of completeness for human being is in living with authenticity. Every human being wants orderly living and authenticity, but not finding its source anywhere. One is left with no other choice but adjust with what is available in the tradition. Yoga and Sanyog are always there in existence. There have been many endeavors in human history for achieving completeness. Their becoming successful or not is another matter. Humankind has made many sacrifices in their pursuit of completeness. A sacrifice doesn't go in vain. If a boulder is struck again and again, then the last strike made the success evident. But if prior strikes had not been there, the last strike wouldn't have been successful. All strikes contributed to the last strike's success. If I have found some success, then it has contribution of all previous efforts also. I believe whole humankind has contributed, which resulted in this event. The biggest benefit of my seeing in this way is that success didn't go into my head. Very few of those who came to me who present themselves arrogantly, and I have seen their initial arrogance melting after my walking few steps with them. All my meetings were cordial and had simplicity. This doesn't mean everyone accepted what I have to say. Many people don't accept what I say, and I respect them as well. It is not their fault. Their rejection is due to the burden from their tradition. So whether someone accepts or rejects, I stay happy. Every human being has the seed for turning to what is right, and when it will sprout and flower, we cannot say. Every human being naturally wants good to happen, so we need to strengthen possibilities for its realization. Sanyog is when human beings meet for the sake of resolution, orderliness, and undivided society. Sanyog is not just a meeting of like-minded people. A meeting of two thieves or two robbers is not for the purpose of achieving resolution and orderliness. Therefore, that is not Sanyog. When I first became capable of living with justice, my family became the first ground of evidencing this understanding. The members of my family became assured that I am moving in the right direction. Once I became successful at the level of my family, families of our friends also started recognizing definiteness in my conduct. Having become confident in living with justice, I started becoming successful in evidencing justice with unknown visitors as well. I'll just stop there for a very brief moment here. So what Nagari is saying is that, of course, in his journey, he had a really strong sankalp, which is conviction, which means commitment and determination to evidence realization. So ultimately, he had this thirst. He wasn't going after anything else but just this thirst to find answers. And he's talking about that genuine conviction that he had, but then he's also talking about that humanity as a whole has been tirelessly putting effort. Now, humanity as a whole hasn't had the proper direction and the proper aim, but the effort to move towards something that's more satisfying and something that's more complete, there's an effortfulness towards it, but without any direction, without any aim, then one doesn't reach there. So then he's talking about yog and sanyog, and essentially yog has to do with mutual togetherness, coming together for complementariness. And when we're talking about sanyog, it's coming together for essentially moving towards resolution, for achieving the human aim, moving together to become complementary to each other. So for example, I went to India, I ended up meeting Nagaraji, and while I was there, Of course, I was seeking for some meaningfulness in my life, and I was seeking for alternatives in education. I was seeking for some answers about life and relationships. But being in the presence, it became a sanyog where I got the opportunity in being that I could move towards understanding. I could move towards resolution, move towards prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence, where the aim of humanity became clear, and I can start moving in that direction. So if you look at yoga, if there's someone who has abundance of something and someone is lacking it, and coming together and being complementary to each other, and then that person is offering a contribution to the other person who maybe has lacking that. So for me, I didn't have the understanding, but there was a wish for it. There was a seeking towards it. And I found in A. Nagaraji, he himself had that. And so together, coming together and being complementary to each other. And so it's yoga is kind of an addition and adding on a contribution to one's life. So I like seeing it in that way. That's one example, and we all have probably several examples we can look at and examine from our life. But I find that there was a sanyog in my relationship with A. Nagaraj. Now, and then A. Nagaraji is saying whatever he attained is also happening with that yoga. That means humanity has put tremendous effort, and that effort has allowed him to get to the point where he was able to realize and evidence the coexistence as it is. Okay, so, and that's why he always presents himself with a sense of gratitude for recognizing the sincere effort that humanity has put in the direction towards goodness. Whether there was an aim or not, that is a different story. There was no aim and directionality, sincere effort. He was able to understand and be able to present a proposal before humanity today. So let's just continue from there. Okay, and then he's saying at the end that now then he became capable of evidencing this in his family, and then he started to become capable of evidencing this with unknown visitors as well. I myself was one of those unknown visitors at one time, where I came to A. Nagaraji, and I had met him and met his family, and then we had the opportunity to live with his family for many months at a time, sometimes for 6 months, sometimes for 5 months or less, where myself, my husband, our 2 children when they were young and just born, and then several times throughout their journey as they were, in their younger years, we spent many months with A. Nagaraji and his family members. And I myself found that being with A. Nagaraji, and I'm going to give more of my complete experiences of this towards the end of the talk, but I feel like it's very fitting when he's saying that he's able to evidence that justice. I find being with A. Nagaraji, I always got this glimpse, I got this feeling of trust, seeing how he is able to fulfill his duties and responsibilities, not only with his family members, but anyone who came to A. Nagaraji. I myself, when I was living with A. Nagaraji, I never felt that I was anything less than a family member. And I don't think any of us who came to live with A. Nagaraji ever got that feeling. So he was fulfilling his duties and responsibilities with anyone who was with him. And you can see his continuous effort to fulfill that. And that allows that feeling of mutual trust to emerge. And I will talk in more details of what are some of those experiences and what it is that I gained from those experiences and what I understood from A. Nagaraji and what inspired me when I come towards the end of the session today. But what I can say is that I was able to really feel that sense of that A. Nagaraji was able to evidence that justice in togetherness and allow that feeling of trust to emerge in togetherness. Every human being wants to lead a successful and meaningful life. Right understanding is the source of fulfilling this noble intention. We can never forget ever presence of this source. Good is acceptable to everyone. Everyone wants good to happen, and all human beings are waiting in its anticipation. As we are waiting in anticipation of good, the question naturally arises, what is our relationship with other human beings? Understanding of relationships is in recognition of their inherent purpose or value. This is the study of all human, I lost my spot. This is the study of what study is all about. Once the inherent purpose of relationships is understood, human being naturally becomes dedicated towards them and then becomes proficient in fulfilling expectations therein. This proficiency naturally gets results. This is the way to success, which is very simple. All-round resolution is linked with all relationships. The purpose of all relationships is all-round resolution. For example, all relationships are meant for resolution and happiness. Resolution is the background of realization of all values such as love, friendship, gratitude, trust in our behavior, and thereby experience happiness. The values are motherly care, fatherly guidance, trust, affection, gratitude, pride, love, reverence, and respect. Gratitude is acceptance of the help that we may have received from wherever and from whoever for all around resolution. With gratitude, other values also start getting realized on their own. After gratitude, the values of affection, love, and trust are realized. You will not find a person who hasn't gotten any help in some form or the other from somewhere. It is with everyone's help that a human being grows up, becomes self-reliant, and becomes capable of evidencing. All relationships, the 7 kinds of relationships, would have continuity when these are with ever presence of evaluation based on right understanding. There is no continuity in relationships in the absence of evaluation. In general, even today, we present ourselves to those who we consider related with us. Traditionally, the relationships among human beings were recognized based on their power, money, intelligence, or age, while in reality, our relationships are first meant for achieving all-round resolution, second for nurturing, third for protection, fourth for usefulness, fifth for good use, and sixth for evidencing of purpose as authenticity. Authenticity is the highest value in human relationships. Everyone becomes satisfied with authenticity of evidence. The values naturally emanate from Jivan. For example, when I meet you, then the values of trust naturally flows. In this way, we become capable of recognizing values in our relationships, doing their evaluation, and finding mutual fulfillment. What is the big benefit? The basis of recognizing our relationships changes from fear and temptation to values and evaluation. Fear and temptation are not values in themselves. So what would be the evaluation here? Fear and temptation go side by side, which makes things quiet for some time, but problem remains as before. The courts of justice, too, could not get us justice since they are also work based on fear and temptation. For centuries, human beings have been making compromises with one another using fear and temptation, but they haven't been able to bring about order in their living. We can therefore agree that fear and temptation are not values, and their evaluation cannot happen. So, he's talking about evaluation is always in terms of values, okay? And he was talking about the values emerge in relationships when we recognize our relationships for participating in the system. And what does that mean? I recognize very definite responsibilities and duties to participate in that system. As we're participating in togetherness, then those values will emerge. So he was mentioning the 7 kinds of relationships. So I thought I would just mention them briefly because it's related to the values he's mentioning here and those 6 points of what relationships are meant for. So if you look at the mother-father relationships and the son-daughter relationship, they're meant for nourishment and protection, all around resolution, and for usefulness and complementariness. The brother-sister relationship is for helping each other, moving together towards all around resolution and helping each other towards that. Then friends are for mutual complementariness. The teacher-disciple relationship is for authenticity and curiosity because the teacher has authenticity and the student has curiosity. A guide and assistant is for fulfilling our duties and responsibilities in togetherness. And then husband-wife is for, there's 2 words, yetitu and setitu. One is the husband is moving towards essentially awakening, which means I'm going to not only understand or realize and evidence, and that process happens in a dominating way in the husband through understanding. And for a wife, that process is happening primarily through the conviction process. And then there's the system-based relationship, which is coming together for the family-based Swaraj Vivasta, sovereign system. So it's coming together to fulfill our social duties and responsibilities, and moving together towards that family-based sovereign system. Okay? So those are the 7 relationships. You can see those relationships are tied with values, and those can emerge when we recognize relationships with those definite duties and responsibilities for participating in the system. So that was just some brief points here, but let's continue. So we are on page 97. Human beings didn't go anywhere near values. If they had, then its expression and evaluation would have been there, and we would see natural evidences of justice in our living tradition. It is just judgment, not justice, which happens in the courts of justice. One side consents to these judgments out of fear, while other out of temptation. Mutual fulfillment never happen there, nor can it happen. Can it ever happen? We humans have altogether failed in getting justice in our history. It is ironical that we still make claims that our development, you can think for yourself what such development means. Every human being has a natural want of becoming liberated from fear and temptation. Human beings' liberation from fear and temptation is destined. This liberation is good for human being and the rest of nature. In this way, relationships are based on their inherent purpose, which is resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistential orderliness. The way for achieving it is through orderly living, which is to participate in all 5 aspects. The 5 aspects of order are education and sanskar, justice and security, health and discipline, production and work, trade, and banking. So those are the 5 programs for participating in system, and he will continue to talk about it here. These are in a system in an orderly system, these are the only 5 systems or programs that are required to ensure the continuity of a system. And he's going to talk more about it here. In this way, we become part of universal orderliness through living in family and participating in the 5 aspects of the order. Such living becomes continuous source of joy, of our joy, well-being, and indomitable courage. Dharma is the step after justice. Dharma means bodh, understanding, and buddhi, which manifests as resolution. Resolution itself is dharma of human being, which becomes evident in the form of orderly living. It is when human being lives in disorder that they get caught in problems. It is when human being lives orderly that they remain resolved. Human being doesn't want to remain caught in problems. They want to become resolved. Resolution equals happiness. Human being's dharma is happiness. Problem equals suffering. Human being doesn't want suffering. Fear and temptation do not become the basis of resolution, but the whole world today is bent on finding resolution by use of fear and temptation. We still teach and train ways of bringing about order by use of fear and temptation in our education, even though it is clear that these cannot result in order. The moment a buildup starts based on fear and temptation, its disintegration also starts from the same moment. The order at any level, family, industry, governance, or state, shall come about only based on values and evaluation. The order is that in which human being can demonstrate their authenticity and live with justice. Education based on sanskar is to instill the thread of right, understanding in every family, in every individual, and in every child. We can also call it the propagation of right understanding. As mentioned earlier, the consequence of articulating this understanding is first, holistic view, second, theory, or vad. A holistic view is darshan, sorry. Second view is vad. Third, the discipline. And after the disciplines are the plans. One of the plans is plan, which shows the provision for human beings orderly living in family. And the second plan is humanization of education plan. It is about academic education based on this understanding. We tried these ideas at a school in Bijnor, UP. It was an experience of 5 years where we observed effects of this education. People have been claiming that the environment supersedes human potential, which I kept denying. In my view, human potential is stronger than their environment. Had environment superseded my potential, I wouldn't have become successful with this discovery. Children from this school started positively affecting their families, and their families in turn started positively affecting environment of that region. The children started identifying themselves as jivan and not body, and they started feeling the utmost need of orderly living. Many children, as a result, started evaluation of what they show on TV and understood its meaninglessness. The disputes, fights, ill will among families, they started disappearing. As per my knowledge, now those villages are not left without any disputes or fighting. This is what I call the children affected their environment. And on this basis, I say this education has some substance. In the humanization of education plan, we will teach about the conscious aspect as part of science. Conscious aspect means study of jivan and its awakening. We will teach the way physiochemical world goes through cycles of composition and decomposition, how these activities are complementary to human being, and how human being can become complementary to the physiochemical world. We will teach philosophy along with practicability aspect. This means the understanding obtained by human being from study of philosophy should become evident in their living. One discovers one's identity with right understanding, whereby one sees only coexistential orderliness everywhere. Then one can respond only with values and relationships, and mutual fulfillment is natural consequence of their evaluation. So I'll just stop for a moment. A. Nagarji was talking here about education based on sanskar, which has to do with right understanding. And in order to make that happen, we have to articulate that understanding, we have three aspects that are important for articulating it. One of them is holistic view, which is the darshan. The second is the theory, which is vad. And the third is called discipline, or shastra in Hindi. Okay, and A. Nagraji has written books that fall into those three categories: darshan, vad, and shastra. Okay, darshan has to do with when we get realized in atma, and that now is inundating on buddhi. That has its effect on buddhi. So now you can see the reality as it is, and there's a complete acceptance of coexistence as it is. So in the section of darshan, or holistic view, there are 4 darshans that A. Nagarji has written to articulate this understanding, the darshan, the overall philosophy. So holistic view of human behavior, holistic view of human karma, holistic view of human practice, and holistic view of human realization. Those are the darshan. Then on vad has to do with now taking that realization, what one has realized and brought into buddhi, and now I'm bringing it into my thought. I'm using expansion of my logic for it. And so that is now in the 4.5 activities. So in the section of vad, we've got realization-based spiritualism, and behavior-based humanism. And then for shastra, which is, in English we say discipline, that's where I'm now manifesting this understanding in my living. So it's a code of conduct for living, where now that darshan and that vad is being manifested in my living, which means my work and my behavior. So Then we've got 3 there, which are behavioral sociology, cyclical economics, and cognitive psychology. Okay, and then he's talking all about the plan, which he discusses here about plan for orderly living, where families can come together and ensure orderliness in one living, and for sharing this proposal towards that, so everyone can live in orderliness. And the second plan is for humanization of education. So those were just a few points I wanted to add on here before we move forward here. Okay, so now we're on page 100. We're on order of existence is an eternal truth. In what sense is it eternal truth? Each unit in existence is in order with its essence. For example, baleness is the essence of a bale tree. A peepal tree maintains its definite conduct with all its fruits, seeds, and leaves, exhibiting people's properties, intrinsic nature, and datum. In the same way, the conduct of entire units of plant world and animal world are definite, each exhibiting definite conduct with their essence. This itself is called as order with essence. The conduct of human being could not become definite until now because they could not live in the universal orderliness so far. We humans haven't accomplished our order yet, but we have started feeling its need. We will need to live as order with essence to accomplish the universal orderliness of humankind. What is the essence of human being? It is humane conduct. It comprises of values, morals, and ethics. The evidence of values is an identification of relationship, fulfilling of values, evaluation, and mutual fulfillment. This must be there in a family. There is no order in family short of mutual fulfillment, and more than that is not needed. Human being will live with values in a spontaneous way to make it happen. Orderly living will give rise to morals. Morals have been recognized as righteous wealth, righteous conjugality, and kindness in work and behavior. Ethics is to righteously use and protect resources in the form of body, mind, and wealth, which leads to fearlessness or trust in human living. This is the description of humane conduct in which human being can live in a very nice way and with assurance. Now we come to the definition of human being. Human being is the one who materializes ideas. For example, human being materializes whatever ideas come to their mind, like building a machine, a house, etc., and keeps living in anticipation of mental well-being or happiness. Happiness is human being's datum or innateness. Humane conduct, therefore, is a combination of values, morals, and ethics. Human being has accomplished the part of their definition of materializing ideas, which is in building objects of our basic or aspirational requirements. As far as human conduct is concerned, we don't find its evidence anywhere today. It is found neither in education nor in constitution. The Constitution has no provision of doing evaluation based on humane conduct. Any constitution that describes power-centric rule would have no provision of evidencing humane conduct because power-centric rule itself is not humane. Humane conduct is just not possible by living according to this Constitution. No one could muster courage or understanding until now to critique the Constitution in this way. Human being will not be able to live with happiness, and they will keep fighting until these gaps are filled. Now, right understanding is the only way out of this mess. Humanization of education is very essential for this. Science will incorporate study of conscious aspect, jivan. Philosophy will incorporate practicability aspect. Psychology will incorporate values aspect. Geography and history will incorporate study of human being and humanness. It is only when humanness gets incorporated in education that human tendencies will naturally shift towards orderly living and producing evidence of right understanding in their living. It is only with our true identity that we will become successful in creating opportunities, fulfilling our requirements, and achieving universal human aims of resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistential orderliness. The education becomes complete only with humanness, not by any other way. The values that we talk about today are based on our own beliefs. These are not universal. The next point is truth. What is truth? Truth is to understand existence in the form of coexistence. One understands the order of existence upon understanding the truth. Existence is studied only in the form of nature saturated in the omnipotence. Human being and rest of nature are complementary to one another. As one develops the art of living according to this understanding, it results only in the form of humane order. Once we have understood this, we can only live with justice. We will participate only in the universal orderliness, and we will only evidence authenticity in our behavior. In this way, we will reach the point of complete assurance, trust, and abundance. The prevalent scientific education declares that everything is chaotic and uncertain. Upon this, its students rationalize and accept their being chaotic. They only further the spread of disorder and imbalance after getting this education. Earth's present condition only illustrates this. The Earth's temperature is rising. What is the root cause? The temperatures are rising because we have extracted coal and petroleum from underneath. We all know how and why this happened. Coal and petroleum are the substances that digest heat, and once we remove them from their place, it was natural that temperature of Earth started rising. This rise in temperature is resulting in the rise of sea levels. How high could the sea levels rise? The place where we are sitting in could have 200 to 300 feet of water. Only few hilltops have been maybe left out of water. We've become stuck in this way. Many developed nations call out saying, let us together fix this situation. It is well known for its history. It is these very nations who started all this. Our extracting coal and petroleum is a violation of the earth. We can know whether Earth can still recuperate from this damage only after these violations stop. Human being lives on Earth in the temperature range from minus 20 degrees until plus 50 degrees centigrade. The human body temperature everywhere remains the same despite variation outside temperature. How does this happen? It happens because the body has the substance which maintains its temperature. In the same way, coal and petroleum are the substances which maintain Earth's temperature. Now, the issue is, how can we stop the extraction of coal and petroleum? We will need to discover alternative sources of energy. We can generate 50 times electricity. We can generate 50 times electricity than our requirement if we could harness the energy from the rivers that flow on Earth. We need to develop efficient turbines for generating electricity from the force of flowing rivers. Second, we can design engines that use vegetable oil instead of petrol or diesel. Oilseed vegetables could be grown in large areas. And third, solar energy needs to get more focus. We need to make more and more machines and systems work with solar energy. In this way, we can get more energy than our requirements from resources on Earth's surface itself. We can stop the use of coal and petroleum by replacing them with alternative sources of energy. It is only then we can test how Earth heals itself from the wounds inflicted on it by humanity. I just lost my spot. 1 second. Sorry, everyone. It's only that we can test how Earth heals itself and inflicted it by human being. Okay, yeah. So I'm primarily doing a lot of reading right now because I feel like some of the points that you had mentioned early, quite a few things we've talked about, or I've shared about and tried to give some commentary over the past few days. And I feel like this part, if we just read very thoroughly, we'll be able to get what Nagveji is saying at this point. So I'm going to just continue reading. The situation of water is another sword hanging over our heads. Whenever water got formed on Earth, it happened with the sanयोग of cosmic rays. Cosmic rays are the one and only source for water formation. Cyclicality of water is established on Earth. With erosion in Earth's environmental cover, the same cosmic rays could affect an opposite way, and it is possible for water to disappear from Earth. The scientists have discovered the sources which harm the environment. Our merely identifying the sources of harm is not going to be enough. We need the ways to rebuild the environment. Rebuilding of environment requires us to first put a stop to whatever excesses we've been doing with it. We read in the papers how extraction of fossil fuels, coal, and use of poisonous materials in war have caused immense damage to Earth's environment. If it is true, then we need to put a stop to all such activities. It is great quality of human being that they think of reparation after doing the damage, something that makes human being different from animals. However, human being hasn't done anything to repair the damage that they have done to the environment. On the contrary, every day we see things getting bad to worse. How long can it go on like this? When will we do anything to repair the Earth provisioned an environment which could secure for human living? But human being, with all their intelligence, rebelled, attacked, and exploited it. Human being kept on spoiling their environment since the ancient age. The destruction increased with coming of scientific age, and now we have become stuck. If a man drowns in a river, then there's a possibility for him to resurface and get saved. It is up to us now whether we want to do something for saving our Earth. Our thoughts determine our circumstances. If we want something, then circumstances become favorable for it. And if we don't want something, then circumstances become unfavorable. We erred in assessing the significance of environment due to our own foolishness. As a result, we damaged the environment in many ways, and in turn caused harm to ourselves. We were lost in our enjoyments while doing all this destruction, but now we are becoming afraid when we see the possibility of getting destroyed ourselves. This sums up the human history thus far. Human consciousness leads to human beings' orderly living, and thereby this learning reaches from one to another. We have been able to do this successfully in one school. Looking at the good results here, we feel the need to spread this learning in all human beings. So I'll just stop there for just a brief moment. Of course, A. Nagari is talking about what is happening, what is the current state of our Earth, and that current state of the Earth has been brought about not just from what's been happening in recent times, from the beginning of human history. Human beings have been exploiting the Earth. And why is that happening? Because in absence of right understanding, we've recognized ourselves as a body, and that is the most basic delusion that we have. We haven't seen ourselves as a conscious entity. And so thus our education has very much been limited in the capacity around sensitivity-based living. And when you have sensitivity-based living, then hoarding, exploitation, and all sorts of struggle between human beings and the environment starts to arise. And that is our entire human history has been about this continuous destruction of our Earth. And thus it is creating an ultimate effect on human beings and everything else. So in order to get out of this cycle of destruction that he's talking about, we need to see ourselves as consciousness. We need to identify ourselves as Jivan. And for that, we need, because if we start to recognize ourselves as a conscious element, as a Jivan, then we can start to move towards understanding definite conduct. Because if I see myself as just a body, there's no place for understanding my definite conduct. As soon as I recognize Jivan, I see that there's a definite purpose. I see that there's a definite aim, which is resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, coexistence. I see now that there is a definite participation and a definite humane conduct, that we can identify ourselves based on. And only we can do that when we recognize ourselves as a conscious entity. And for that, we need an education that can bring about right understanding or knowledge of coexistence, knowledge of Jivan and knowledge of human conduct. And then we can have a definite aim, definite purpose, and then a very definite direction to reach there. So we need consciousness development through value-based education. And in light of that, that is our way of humanizing education. And we can move beyond this cycle to now ensure a cycle of humane tradition. So now we're on page 1. I think it's page 105 if I'm seeing correctly. No one does any wrong unless their understanding itself is wrong. According to me, every human being wants good and is responsible for making good to happen. Sooner or later, human being will realize their responsibility for the good of all. Awakening is to realize the essence of the well-being of all. This proposal is to initiate discussion about right understanding and Jivan's awakening as an alternative to pursuits of devotion, detachment, or luxury possession. The understanding and conviction of Buddhi can be evidenced only after one has understood the meaning of justice, dharma, and truth. Once understanding of these three is achieved in Buddhi, it becomes the truth force. As a result, one accepts the responsibility of the good of all. It is upon understanding the order in existence that we realize its ever-presence in the form of coexistence. And that is what I teach. The fragmentation approach was discovered by science for mathematical methods, which got used in making more and more powerful atom bombs. The purpose of making the atom bomb is nothing apart from destruction. The nuclear tests that were carried out again and again have resulted in colossal environmental damage to Earth. These acts were carried out by a handful of people, but all 7 billion humans have been left suffering. The fragmentary approach of science is the culprit. The mathematical method reduces the ever-presence of existence to negligible, while the reality is just the opposite. The ever-presence of existence is eternal. There is nothing apart from the ever-presence of existence. All magnificence of existence is its ever-presence, while fragmentation approach denies existence is its ever-presence. Also denies it altogether, Huge narrative of lies have been built based on this approach. Now human being will need to muster self-confidence to get over this. As long as human beings base their confidence on atom bombs, swords, nationalistic or religious symbols, they cannot achieve trust amongst themselves. Human beings will have self-confidence only after having understood what is self. We will need to precisely understand justice, dharma, and truth to understand self. Justice is understood on the basis of existence of relationships. Dharma is understood on the basis of existence, universal orderliness. Trust is understood on the basis of existence itself, which is always in effect by way of coexistence. The entire magnificence of three orders of nature, apart from human being, is already orderly. Human being has innate thirst for order to some extent. It is not possible to achieve understanding of the order of existence by reading the textbooks of delusion, which is prevalent. It is only after achieving understanding of the order and by living in that order that a human being becomes capable of fulfilling their dharma. The dharma of human being is only to live according to the order of existence. Any entities being orderly and participating in the universal orderliness of existence itself is its dharma. The dharma of material order is to exist. The dharma of biological order is to grow along with existence. The dharma of animal order is want of living along with growth and existence. The dharma of knowledge order, human being, is continuity of happiness along with want of living, growth, and existence. Happiness itself is human being's dharma. How will happiness come about? It is resolution that will result in happiness. Resolution results from living in order of existence. Orderly living of human being depends on their having the right understanding. Right understanding, all in all, is about existence, jivan, and humane conduct. Upon understanding of the order of existence, it is natural for one to have dedication and conviction of living thereby. Living thus, we can create better conditions for human living. We will need to embrace humane education to give rise to right understanding in the humankind. There is no other way of saving Earth from annihilation. Let us be very clear about it. It is needed. If we don't understand it on our own, then circumstances will force us to understand it. Dharma, therefore, is to live in universal orderliness and undivided society. I have seen the unification of humankind is possible through this path. Human race is one. Their actions are many. Human dharma is one. Unless and until human beings identify themselves as one race, how could any work be done for their good? Human being can perform various occupations like farming, tailoring, masonry, etc. It is natural for a human being to do many occupations. Occupations here means production activity. We can accept the oneness of human race by seeing that the aim of all human beings is common, which is to become happy, to become prosperous, to become resolved, to have no fear, and to have continuity of evidencing coexistential orderliness. Any program that we make for fulfilling these aims can only be based on the premise that human race is one and human dharma is one. The way to human dharma, happiness, is dharma, which is the order of existence. If order of existence can be evidenced at one place and at one time, then it can be evidenced at all places and at all times. And that is the beauty of this proposal. Make good happen always. So it's amazing to read this book by A. Nagaraji time and time again. And each time you read it, you feel this timelessness, this what he's saying is so relevant. And you feel that there is an extreme necessity. And you can see, despite whatever challenges, solutions human beings are facing, A. Nagaraji has always showed us to every problem, there's always a solution. There's a resolution. And resolution, the state of resolution, will allow for the state where there's no problem in the first place. And so we human beings have this amazing proposal that has been passed on to us by A. Nagaraji. And what A. Nagaraji is saying, this proposal, and it could be shared with human being, and if it can be passed on through education, then human beings can move to resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence. And then we will also have the results that are acceptable to all human beings. Right now, whatever we're seeing happening on the planet is unacceptable to every human being. Yet before this proposal, we haven't had another option. And here today, we are, of course, there is a crossroads that humanity is facing. We're at a dead end, but we also have this beautiful, amazing opportunity. This proposal has been gifted to humanity. And with this proposal, we ourselves can understand. We can move towards understanding ourselves as Jivan. And through that, we can awaken, which means we can realize all 10 activities. We can realize the coexistence as it is, and we can evidence that in our living with humane conduct, which means living with values, character, and ethics. And this should be available to every child on the planet, so they too can begin their life with this opportunity, and whatever 3 gifts A. Nagaraji is talking about that every child has, that those 3 gifts can become, it could now come into practice in human life. So for me, although I've read this book many, many times, I always feel like I get something on another level after I'm reading it. And you see that necessity, and it makes me feel this drive more. to move and to do whatever I can in my time to continue to understand this and to practice this in my living, in my family setup, and with all of my interactions, whether it be my neighbors or people in the society. And through that, as I strive to recognize my duties and responsibilities, also participate in education and humanizing education and making this available to every human being. And so it makes me feel more sense of more determination and commitment towards that each time that I read that. So I want to, of course, express my gratitude to A. Nagaraji and to all members of his family for this amazing proposal and the opportunity that they have provided to me and to so many people to access this proposal and to be such an inspiration in living. I will go over a tiny bit in time today to give a little bit of a taste of some of my experiences with A. Nagaraji. I might just be touched for a moment here and there because, when you read, I think there's something for me about, of course, I've spent time with A. Nagaraji and his family. And for me, it's I've always felt very touched to see the level of inspiration that I've achieved, that I have gained from their family. And I always feel that has been one of the greatest gifts to me in my life is this proposal and the opportunity that I had to have spent time with A. Nagaraji and his family members, and whatever good on any level that I feel like I've been able to achieve here with my family. I feel like whatever area of good that we have accomplished something, it is, and there's still more that we need to go. We're in a process, but whatever good there is, I feel like it's because of the inspiration that we have gained from A. Nagarajan and his family, and due to this proposal. So it's had a huge impact on my life, and it's been a tremendous gift. So I feel touched, and there's something for me about reading it out loud. It's very different when you read it in your mind, and for me to hear, as I'm reading it out loud, it feels even more. You feel this necessity, and I'm almost hearing A. Nagaraji speak it. So I'm a little bit touched at the moment. So what I want to share is a few key things that have been very inspirational for me about the experiences I've had with A. Nagaraji. As I've mentioned, me and my family members have spent quite a bit of time with A. Nagaraji. So there's several things, and I'll try to keep fairly brief. But when I first went to India, and I mentioned before, I went to explore alternatives in education. And I was seeking alternative education. I was also seeking a sense of meaningfulness, seeing that there must be something more in how we live, seeing the importance of relationships in life. And so when I went to India, I fortunately went to an organization called SID. And while I was there, I just so happened arrived at the right time. They said, the first English, just so happens in the next week, one of the first English workshops of this proposal called Jivan Vidya is available, and we're trying to rearrange our organization, our education model based on this. I want you to sit, and we want you to sit for this as well. So I said, great. I mean, wow, I arrived at the right time. It's going to be in English as well. I hadn't heard anything about Jivan Vidya. I didn't speak any Hindi at the time. Well, it's okay. The proposal was offered in English at the time. And people came from all over India. There were 2 consecutive workshops in a row, and I got the opportunity to sit. And that was the start of my journey with this. And in that workshop, I met my husband. And after that, I had gone to visit A. Nagaraji, and people were telling, you're going to go meet Babaji. For me, I'm new to India. People are sharing lots, but all of this, it wasn't something that maybe I had quite understood at the time. Until I went and I met A. Nagaraj, because for me, after taking the workshop, it felt, yes, this is something that's very important for humanity. We need to move in this direction. Of course, it was just, I've gotten a little tiny glimpse of it, but I knew that this was something that seemed very important. So for me, it was a blessing to be able to go and meet A. Nagaraji, who propounded this. And of course, what I noticed when I met A. Nagaraji the first time is the simplicity. He would just seem like any grandpa living in a family, in this intergenerational family. So someone with this great height of knowledge who is offering this proposal to humanity, which generally has a resolution. And then here I am meeting him, and he's living a very simply, sitting on his bed, giving his full time. Anyone who wants time to ask a question, he will give his full time to just sit and provide this proposal. And so it almost just felt like you're in a home with a grandfather. But the height of the understanding and the simplicity of living as a very normal human in a family. And I say normal human, right now you don't even see such a family set up here in the West. So that was very inspiring for me to see how a human being can live that way. And all the other family members were taking all the other efforts. His wife, doing, all the other things that need to be happen, and the other family members doing other things that need to be happen, to allow him to give his free time to share freely with everyone in the society who came to be with him. And of course, feeding and taking care of the people. And so they had provided this opportunity for this proposal to be shared with so many people. So it's a whole family effort. And that was very inspiring to see the coordination of all the family members for being able to share this proposal with as many people as possible. So that was very inspiring for me to see the way A. Nagaraji was living. It was something that you feel like, yes, I could live this way too. So it gave you assurance that I could move towards living it. And A. Nagaraji always gave that assurance to whoever was with A. Nagaraji. He always gave that assurance that you can live this. I'm able to live it, so can you. And he always gave that assurance as well. So not only did he speak it, but the way in which he lived his life in his family setup, you actually start to get assured that, yes, I can live this. So the other thing is, I just want to add a couple of points. My husband is from India, I'm from Canada. At first, for a lot of people, that created some challenges mentally, because they felt like, how are you going to foster a relationship based on this? And of course, we decided that we wanted to marry on the basis of moving towards this understanding and striving to practice it in our living. But for some people, there was some challenges in it, because they felt like, you were raised in very different way of seeing, different background, different languages, and many other aspects. So we're seeing through the lens of different. When A. Nagaraj came to know, and we came and asked him and talked with him about it, he himself, you could see, he didn't see any differentiation in his mind. She's from the West, he's from India, or she's was originally from a Jewish tradition. He's from a family that raised them based on Hinduism versus Jewish tradition. He simply saw these are two people who want to move towards understanding this and striving to practice in their living. And so that's great. If you're moving together towards resolving and towards that larger purpose, then that's a great thing. So A. Nagaraj, you can see that in his mind, he's talking about undivided society, universal orderliness. And he himself, you could see when you're going and meeting him, that you don't see, there's no contradiction in that. Through and through, he saw we're two people who are moving in that direction towards striving to move in that direction. He saw that there's an innate want towards it. We want to move in that direction. And there was an acceptance of our relationship for that. And he always supported that. So I'm just saying that from the perspective, you can see that undividedness. He lives in the state of undividedness. And you can see that very clearly in A. Nagaraji. I had many, many moments with A. Nagaraji. One of my very first kind of aha moments, A. Nagaraji had this amazing way of being able to recognize what you maybe are stuck in at that moment. What is something, a condition maybe you're stuck at, and at the right moment, the right time, bring you to that next step so you can realize, see something more than that condition idea and maybe move beyond it towards seeing more in the realm of solution. So this is probably one of my first moments where I had one of those aha moments, because when I went to visit A. Nagaraji, this was very much beginning. I went to visit here and there for a day or two. And I'd taken 2 workshops. I was very much in my beginning. I had written this poem about Jivan. I got inspired, and I like writing stories, and I like poetry. So I thought, let me use my skill towards it. And I wrote something in the poem, I am Jivan, you're Jivan, and something else. And I was I felt like it was quite good at the time. And so I felt like, okay, let me go and share it with Nagaraji and see what he has to say. And I don't remember all the details of the conversation, but somehow you read it and you said, what is that? And I don't remember the exact words he said, but he wasn't very impressed with how I wrote it. And I don't remember the exact wording at that moment. And then from that, okay, so I was taken off guard for a minute. Okay, the poem maybe is not really aligned as it should be. But it created that necessity for me at that moment to, okay, what is A. Nagaraji going to say now? And so he said is, that there's no I am Jivan, you're Jivan. And what he said to me was it hydrogen? I mean, he said, if you look at the hydrogen, or was it hydrogen? I have to go back to my notes now. It's on the other computer, but hydrogen atom, are they the same? All hydrogen atoms, are they the same or different? And then I said, oh, I never really thought about it before. And I said, all hydrogen atoms are the same. And then he brought my attention to the fact, same thing with Jivan. If you're looking on the level of Jivan as an atom, then all Jivan are the same. So we can't say, I am Jivan, you're a Jivan. Of course, when we're saying human being, then we're talking with a body, then you could say things a little bit different. But on the level of Jivan, we cannot differentiate like that. And that it really was a huge aha moment for me. And I think part of it was like, okay, my poem is not good. So it really woke me up to something. And then I was able to see anything that I'm doing in my life for differentiation, to see myself as different from others, in order for me to feel good, to establish my significance. That is against the coexistential orderliness. And I want to see myself bringing myself towards orderliness, towards ensuring the mindset of coexistence, towards moving towards excellence, which is something that is available for everyone. And that is an inspiration I got from A. Nagaraj. That's one small example of a very initial moments that I've had with A. Nagaraji. And after that, me and my husband and our two children, after the children were born, we spent many months with A. Nagaraji. So I'll just share a few moments of those experiences, because that's when we spent 5-6 months. Of course, I was having little babies at the time. And what I noticed, there are several things, that A. Nagaraji, whatever he fully utilized his body. And the way I say that is, he always gave his full time for sharing this proposal, this understanding. And I can see, he would sit on his bed for the day, and, he had a moment, he's going through his books, writing something. Anyone is there, wants to understand, he gives freely that time. And he might start also at 3 a.m. in the morning, wake up and give people time. Then throughout the day, whatever time is necessary. If I have a question, he would never say, I'm going to give you the answer later, come back tomorrow. It was always right now. Your question is important now, and I'm going to address it now. So he always gave that time for understanding. And he also, I felt like I didn't feel any difference in his family than any other of his family members, whether it be his own son, who he raised from the beginning, or myself. I felt no difference. When I was living in his home, in terms of I want time for understanding, he would give that. He wouldn't give, whoever was ready to understand, he was ready to give that time. And I saw with the children, myself, every morning, he wants to make sure my body was nourished well. He wants to make sure I'm getting dood, I'm getting all the things that I need. Of course, I was breastfeeding at the time. Whatever I can get to make sure that he always was thinking whatever I can have so we can be well nourished while we were there, and the children have what they need. And also providing the understanding at the same time, offering guidance. Many times we were sharing about things that happen in Canada. He would sit with us and he would give us, okay, this is, if you want to make your center there, I'm going to give you hope. This is the system that you can arise based on it. We're sitting and writing together. All of his support was there, and always gave us this background support and assurance. You guys, you can do it. And I also saw A. Nagaraji was always happy despite circumstances. Right now, we are so affected by circumstances of what happens here and there, all the outer circumstances. Your body gets sick because we see ourselves as a body. People get influenced by it. I saw A. Nagaraji in times where his body was quite sick, extreme cough and very just deep things happening in his body, extreme level. But you still talk with A. Nagaraji. How are you? Bahut badhiya. And he always saying, I'm very good. And you look at it, most people in the society, at least here, you would say, you're looking at someone who's looking very sick at the time. And people would say, how can you say you're very good? Most people, if they're really sick, say, I'm not good. This is what I'm going through in my body. As we see ourselves with our body with Nagaraji, despite outer circumstances, whatever is happening, whether it be his bodily situation might not be at his best, or outer things, someone's coming, going, whatever is happening, Nagaraji has maintained that continuity of happiness. And he ensured the continuity of fulfilling his definite duties and responsibilities. And that's why all of us got assurance and trust in being with Babaji. So you always just felt so uplifted with Babaji that, you know, sometimes he would say to me, you should go to Israel and you should be able to share there, because my dad is from Israel. And he would bring it up about many times. And sometimes he said, yeah, you can bring it about there, and that will be able to move towards, you know, solving some of the challenges there, move them towards resolution. And of course, in my mind, that's such a big deal to move towards solving the challenges that are happening in the Middle East. And you would say, wow, that's so complex. But for Nagaraji, he's saying, no, there is a solution, and you can go and you can do it. You can propose it. So the things that maybe you would feel like, I don't know if I'm capable of doing, but Nagaraji, he always uplifted us and inspires to feel like, yes, you can do it. And every human being can do it. And we need to develop our ability further. And he was always there supporting. I also want to say another huge thing that was a moment, and then I will close up with this. I grew up, and there's probably so many other things I can share, but I'm choosing a few points. I grew up in a family where I could see had a fear of death. When I was young, I remember my grandfather, he was so afraid of death. Like one time he was coming and crying to me and hugging me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And of course, living in a family where you see that there's that fear. And I know it's because if you identify yourself as a body and then you feel like you're gone, you're no longer there when the body dies, or you see that I'm dying. So I live in a family where I can see there's that fear that was there. And definitely there's an imprint that as a child, if you're seeing that, it definitely has an impact on you. And what was had another impact to me, an inspiring moment, is when Nagaraj, I'm getting touched again by all these moments, but when Nagaraj, when his wife left her body, we were in Canada, and I had the opportunity to meet his wife on maybe a couple of occasions, one or two. And she left her body, okay, so she passed away. And Nagaraj, we were in Canada, and we were thinking to call Nagaraji. We were going to call him, but we were thinking, okay, what do we actually say? Of course, Nagaraj, we know that he is able to see there's a continuity of relationships he sees according to Jiva. But of course, in our mind, we just sure, what do we say when we call? And Nagaraj, the way that he addressed his wife leaving her body left all of us so uplifted. And that was just a beautiful moment to see how someone can take when someone leaves their body. So Nagaraj, he uplifted us so much. He said to us, you know, Betaji, or whatever it was, I don't remember if it was Betaji, I'm saying that, but he said to us, you know, Mataji lived the ultimate of what you can achieve in human life. Mataji, she utilized her body to the fullest for this. For, you know, whatever I attained in my life is because of her effort. So the ultimate of what a human being can achieve in life, Mataji also, she lived her life for that. And so what can we do with that? We need to celebrate that. So he brought us to see what is Mataji's contribution, how she lived her life, what is the celebration in that. And so all of us left feeling that sense of, yes, what was the gain of Mataji? What was her contribution in our life? What is the contribution to Nagaraji's life that allowed him to be able to come to this place where he can share this Madhyas Darshan with all of us? And what more would one want with their life than to be able to utilize their body towards this purpose, serving the purpose of humanity, towards undivided society, universal orderliness? It was very, very touching for me to see the celebration that can happen in celebrating the life of someone, as they, in light of them living out the human purpose. So there are many more moments, and I saw and then I'll close up here, Nagaraj, not only for myself gave time but he also gave time for the young children, for Nandi Bitaji and Devam Bitaji. When they were young, he knew how to relate with the young ones too, clapping and just chatting with them, playing with them in different ways. And we had a lot of conversations about what it means to raise a child, and many things that he stated that were very, very inspirational and always remain with me, and be glad to share with anyone at any time. But I think with limitation of time here, I will stop. Those were some glimpses or little moments that I've had with A. Nagaraji and his family members. And I'm, again, express my gratitude for the inspiration I got from A. Nagaraji, Mataji, his daughter Amba Didiji, who was an extreme inspiration for me, how to live and give full service for her parents in order to share this proposal, her commitment for this darshan, for Madhyas Darshan and the worldview of harmonious coexistence, and all the family members for allowing this opportunity for me and so many other people. So my sincere gratitude there. I want to close up by thanking all of the participants who joined me. And I also would like to express my gratitude to Rakesh brother, and Priyanka's sister for all of their effort in making this happen, for allowing me this opportunity to share in the reading of this book, Jivan Vidya, an introduction, me and the rest of us, and anyone else who has been pivotal in making this platform possible, where all of us can connect with each other and move towards understanding together. So I think I'll end there. So on behalf of not only myself here, I say this on all of our family members that are living here right now in Canada, which is myself, my husband Mahendra, our children, Anandi Bitaji, Devam Bitaji, Spencer brother, and Estelle's sister, who did their sharing just before me. On behalf of all of us, I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and thank you for this opportunity, for engaging us here in Canada in this amazing effort. And I wish all the best to Kevin brother, who will continue the sessions from tomorrow. And that is it on my end. So thank you, everyone. Namaste, and have a beautiful evening or day. And that is it for me. So let me just close up. Goodbye, everyone.